it's Mrs. Lee. I'm so excited to have the chance to do a math video with you today. And today, third grade, we're going to talk a little bit more about rounding. I know you have some background knowledge on it from what you learned in second grade. And I know you've been working with your third grade teacher, whether it be in person or blended, or in person on the blended days or at home with your virtual teacher. So let's get started. Now you might think, why do I even need to know about rounding? Why is rounding important? So think about it with math. Rounding numbers makes your mental calculations, the ones that you do in your head, it makes them a little more easy. It makes the numbers a little more simple to work with. Also, if you've ever had to estimate or get an estimate, you might have heard it said that way, get an estimate for something. When you know how to round numbers, it's going to make your estimation or getting an estimate a little more accurate. So rounding is a really good skill to have and a really good skill to be good at. So let's get some more practice in place today. So you can see in front of me what I have right here. If you can't tell, it's a meter stick. And the reason I love a meter stick for rounding is because on the back of a meter stick, it shows the measurements from 1 all the way to 100 centimeters. And I like to use those centimeters on the back of this meter stick as my number line. So that's where we're going to get started today. In second grade, you learned how to round to the nearest 10. Okay, the nearest tens within 100 are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then we hit 100. So you learned to round numbers to the closest 10 or the nearest 10. So let's look at this number I have circled right here. You can tell that I have the number 47 circled. I can tell you that 47 would round to what? If you said 50, you got it. 47 would round to 50. When I look at the two tens that 47 is between, I can see that it's closer to 50 than it is to 40. It's closer to 50, so it rounds to 50. Let's try another one from last year. Here, let me slide my meter stick back. I'm going to go with the number, I'm going to go with 84. So I just circled it right here on my meter stick, and I can see that 84 is in between 80 and 90. And I want to round it to the 10 that it's closest to. What would 84 round to? If you said 80, you are correct. It is closer to 80, so it would round to 80. Does that sound familiar in what you can recall for your learning to round in second grade? Good. All right, so let's move on to some third grade stuff now. I'm going to get my meter stick out of the way. I'm going to put some paper right here and grab my marker. And let's quickly review the third grade place values that we are working with. You should be saying these place values in your head as I'm drawing the lines to label them. So the smallest place value that we're working with in third grade is the ones. Then we have the tens. Then we have the hundreds. And then we have the thousands. And I know that you are working with some larger place values, but these are the ones that we're working with when it comes to rounding numbers. When we round numbers, you probably have this background knowledge. We look at a place value, and the place value to the side of it, to the right, is the place value that decides for us. It decides if the number is going to round up or if the number is going to round down. So when I'm rounding to the nearest tens, the ones place value is the place value that decides for me. When I'm rounding to the nearest hundreds, the tens place value is the one that decides if that hundreds goes up or if it goes down. And when I'm rounding to the nearest thousand, the hundreds place decides for me, the digit that's in the hundreds place. So that should sound familiar, but that's just a little bit of review as we continue to do some practice. So let's talk about what you've learned in third grade. I know that you have learned to round to the nearest 100. So let's practice that really quick. I'm going to use my place value dice. I think they're so fun to build a number. So let's do it. Look, I just rolled my place value dice. I have the value of 3 hundreds, 0 tens, and 8 ones. So the number that I just made with my place value dice, I'm going to write it up here at the top of my paper, is 308. Now, when I think of rounding and I'm rounding to the nearest hundred, I want to know, what 200s is 308 in between? So I'm going to make my own number line. Can you tell me what 308 is between? If you think 308 is in between 300 and the next 100 up would be 400, you're correct. Now, does anybody know what's exactly in the middle of 300 and 400? That number would be 350, is right in the middle. Now, where would 308 be on my number line? Remember, when I round to the nearest 100, I look what's in my tens place, the place value before, and there's a 0. So this number is really close down here to 300. 308 would be probably about right somewhere right here. So if I want to round 308 to the nearest 100, you can clearly see for this number that it's closer to 300 than it is to 400. So 308 rounded to the nearest 100 would be 300. All right. Now, I'm going to I'm going to roll my dice to get another number. Still a number just in the hundreds. Oh, I got another 300 number. 300, I have a 10, and I have a 7. So if I put that number together, the number I just made from expanded form and I'm putting it in standard form is 317. Now, I want to talk about 317 because we're not going to round 317 to the nearest 100. Instead, I want to round 317 to the nearest 10. So I want you to understand, as we do this lesson together today, that I can round to a smaller place value within a number. I can definitely round 317 to the nearest 100, but I can also round it to the nearest 10. And that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so let's talk about this. I have a 1 in my tens place. So I really want to take some time and think about, what is 317 in between? Which 2 tens with the 300? So I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to cover up the 3. And I'm going to use my background knowledge and I'm going to think about what 2 tens is 17 between? 17 is between 10 and 20. So that means 317 is between 310 and 320. And I'll make my number line. Now, let me think, what's in the middle? What number is in the middle of, if I'm just looking at these two, what number is in the middle of 10 and 20? The number in the middle of 10 and 20 is 315. The number in the middle of 10 and 20 is 15. So the number between 310 and 320 is 315. Now let me think on my number line where 317 would go. The numbers that are in between 310 and 315 are 311, 312, 313, 314, 315, 316, 317. It would be about right here. And remember, that's the number that I'm working with. So is 317, is it closer to 310 or is it closer to 320? If you said 320, you're correct. So 317 rounded to the nearest 10 is 320. All right, are you hanging in there with me? So remember, I can round to any place value within a number. I can round certainly to the hundreds, but in the number like this, I can also round to the nearest 10. Let's try another one. I'm going to roll my dice because I love this practice with expanded form. You know what? This one actually is on the nearest 10. It's exactly 360. So let me roll again. And I got another 300 number. Let's see if we can get something different. All right. A 200, a 70, and a 6. So the number I just rolled right here in expanded form, as I write it in standard form, is going to be 276. All right. So let me get my dice out of the way. Now, if I want to round this number, first of all, to the nearest 100, I look at the number in my tens place, okay? 7 represents 70. So would 276 be closer to 200, or would it be closer to 300? Those are the 200s that it's between. 200 or 300. 250 would be in the middle. A number that's 270 would be probably be, let me get my line in there, would probably be about right here. So that can represent my 276. And I can see if I was rounding this to the nearest 100, that it would round to 300. Okay, but I want to talk about this number again and round it to the nearest 10. All right. So let's look at 276, and I'm actually going to fold my paper over so we're not looking at so many numbers. 276 is a number that we're working with, but right now I want to round it to the nearest 10. All right, so let's do what we did last time. I'm going to take the 100 away just for a second so I can think about my background knowledge and what I know about 76. 76 is between two tens. Can you think of the two tens that 76 is between? Well, it's between 70 and the next 10 up, which is 80. 76 is between 70 and 80. So 276 is between 270 and 280. And I'll make my number line. And I'm doing this on this paper because third grade, I want you to realize that you can draw number lines too to help you with this rounding. All right. So the number I'm trying to round to the nearest 10 is 276. I've got both of my tens that it's between 270, 280. If I want to think about the number that's right in the middle of these two, it would be 275. Now, if 275 is right here, where do you think 276 on my number line is going to be? About right there, I'd say. So I'll label that as 276. And now I want to know, is this closer to 280 or is it closer to 270? I can see that 276, when I round it to the nearest 10, is closer to 280. So 276 rounded to the nearest 10 is 280. Remember, I can also round it to the nearest 100, and I did that over here, and it was closer to 300. So within a number, you can round to multiple place values. We rounded this number to the nearest 100 and to the nearest 10. So now, in third grade, you round numbers all the way up to the nearest 1,000. So I've just added a place value dice, and I'm going to roll these dice. And you know what? I'm going to roll them again because if you can see you see how many thousands I got? 0. And I want a number that has some value in the thousands. Here we go. So I have a 9,000, a 100, a 10, and an 8. If I put that number together from this expanded form to standard, my number is 9,118. Now, you probably have had some experience rounding numbers in the thousands to the nearest thousand. And remember, when I do that, we talked about the place value before is the one that decides for me when I look at the hundreds place, or I can talk about the 2000s that the number is between. This number, 9,118, is in between 9,000 and 10,000. And I'm going to make my number line. If you can think about the number that's in the middle, that would be 9,500. The number I'm working with is 9,100. Now, you already might know through a math generalization or a math rule that if you have a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4 in your deciding place value, you're told to round down. Or if you have a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 in your deciding place value, you're told to round up. So you already may know that this 1 is telling this 9 to round down or stay the same, and that it will round to 9,000. But I love to look at things on a number line so I can really see my math work and see my number sense. So this is a 9,100. This is 9,000. That's 9,500. So a number that's 9,100 would probably come about right here. So I'm going to label this as 9,118. Can I clearly see which thousand it's closer to? There's my 9,000. Whoa. Here's my 10,000. It's closer to 9,000. So this generalization with our numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 telling us to round down, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 telling us to round up, it works. I just like to show it on a number line. So now I'm going to rewrite this number just right here because I want to talk about it for 1 second before we do a little more practice. There are 4 different place values in this number right now. I have my ones, my tens, my hundreds, and my thousands. So when I have a number up to the thousands place, I definitely can round it to the nearest thousand, the greatest place value, but I also can round this number to the nearest tens and to the nearest hundreds. So I can round to multiple place values just within one number. All right, let's build a thousands number, another one with our place value dice. My ones place went flying. Okay, so I have a 4,600, 0 tens, and 7 ones. So if I put that number together in standard form, I have 4,600, 0 tens, 7 ones. So you know what I'd like to do? I would like to round this number. I could round it to the nearest thousand. We know how to do that. I could round it to the nearest hundred. I could round it to the nearest 10. Let's round this number to the nearest 10. So just like I showed you before, I want to figure out what 2 tens this is between. Now, let me stop for 1 second and say, some of you may be ahead of me in thinking, well, I know 7 will tell the 0 to round up to 1. And this number rounded to the nearest 10 will be 4,610. We can go ahead and write that because that is the correct answer. But I want to talk about it on a number line and why this number is closest to this number. So I'm going to take a moment and talk about the 2 tens that 7 is between. Now, don't let this trick you. 7 is between 0 and 10, okay? So that means the 2 tens that it will be when we add these greater place values back in is 4,600 and 4,610. Now, where would 7 come if you were putting 7 in between 0 and 10? Remember, the number in the middle would be the 5. So 4,605 would be in the middle. Where would 4,607 be? Let's say maybe about right here. So can you see which 10 this is closer to when we round it to the nearest 10? Is this closer to 4,610 or 4,600? I think I can clearly see that that's shorter. So 4,607 rounded to the nearest 10 would be 4,610. Okay, let's try another thousands number and round it to the nearest hundred. You know what? I'm going to roll that hundreds number again because I want a hundreds value. I have 7,294. So 7,294. And I told you that I wanted to round this time to the nearest hundred. Now, if I cover this up and you see just that, and you think about what you know about a 9, can you clearly tell me already what hundred this is going to round to? So you might be thinking of the generalization or the math rule that a 9 tells the 2 to round up. You're correct. Can you think of the 200s that 294 comes between? Well, it comes between 200 and 300. What is it closer to? It's much closer to one of those. It's much closer to 300. So let's look at that. The 200s that it comes between is 200 or 200 and 300. So 7,200 and 7,300. There's my number line. 294. So 7,250 is right in the middle. But a number that's all the way up in the 90s is going to be way up here. 7,294. So when we round this number to the nearest hundred, you can clearly see that it's closer to 7,300. That's what it would round up to. Okay? Now, as I close, I want to remind you that you can round to different place values within one number. You can round to the nearest, if you have a number all the way up to the thousands, you can round to the nearest 10, the nearest 100, and the nearest 1,000. You can round just to the nearest 1,000, just to the nearest 100, or just to the nearest 10. If you have a number that's in the hundreds, like this one, you can round to the nearest 10, and you can round to the nearest 100. All right, so think about what you know. Use those math skills that you know. Use a number line if that's a tool that will help you. And get some rounding practice in. So 3rd grade, so proud of you. And I look forward to doing another math video with you really soon. See you later.